Hi. So we're looking at, we'll just look at one Mishnah today as we're finishing up a chapter. We'll be finishing chapter 13, so 13:7. And again, this is piggybacking off of the last Mishnah that we looked at. Has to do with trapping an animal. The case was trapping a deer in a home, and against the malacha, the prohibition on Shabbat, the labor of trapping an animal. Okay. Yashav ha'echad ala petach velo mil'ahu, yashav sheni u'mil'ahu hasheni chayav. If one person sat in a doorway, but it did not fully block it, so it was not enough we're dealing with sitting in a doorway and not leaving enough space for the deer to be able to escape, and thus it being a form of trapping. And then the second person sat down and then it did block it, then just the second person is liable. Because before there was a pathway for the deer, the first person sitting wasn't an act of trapping, it was just an act of sitting. And then it came to be the person that sat next to them actually blocked the passageway, and thus that person is liable. Yashav harishon ala petach u'milahu, uva hasheni vayashav b'tzido, af al pi she'amad harishon v'halach lo, harishon chayav v'hasheni patur. If the first person sat in the doorway and blocked it completely, so they sufficiently did the act of trapping on their own, so the second person then comes and sat down alongside him, it's not actually a significant action, even though the first person then stands up and stood up and went away, the first person is liable and the second person is exempt. So even if now the second person, so one person sits, they fully block the doorway, they're completing the act of trapping this deer. Then another person comes and sits next to them, that person's not doing anything. Then even if the first person leaves, if the second person is now sufficiently blocking the space on their own, they're exempt because their action didn't create this trapping. It was the first person's action that created the trapping initially. Then they sat, which was an insignificant action. It wasn't related to any melacha. They just did an act of sitting. And then the other person gets up. Perhaps now they are trapping, but they never initiated that action. They never did an act of trapping to begin with. Ha-lama ze domeh. To what is this case analogous? L'noel et beito l'shamro, v'nimsat tzvi shamor b'tocho. One who locks his house to safeguard it, and a deer is found to be guarded therein. So if you lock the door of your house, and then when you come in, and then you see there's already a deer tied up, or there's already a deer behind another door, then your action is not actually doing anything, even though normally we think of that as an act of trapping, locking the door, because it was already sufficiently trapped without your doing, even if now it'll get out of that other trapping and now you're trapped. So right, so it's a similar. They're giving an analogy of what would be considered similar if it was already trapped inside a home, and then you come in and lock the door. It's not actually doing the act of trapping because it's already occurred. Okay, good. So we'll continue with chapter 14 next time. Everyone have a good day. Bye.